Welcome to CerebralDecode. You're listening to Office Politics, The Invisible Game, a reflection on the hidden forces shaping modern workplaces. Disclaimer. This audiobook discusses real-world leadership and organizational examples purely for educational and analytical purposes. All references are based on publicly available information, and interpretations are solely for learning and reflection. The myth of meritocracy. The idea of meritocracy is comforting. It promises fairness, that talent and effort will naturally rise to the top. But in most organizations, the reality is more nuanced. People are promoted not only for what they produce, but also for how they are perceived. While competence is necessary, it's rarely sufficient. In office environments, perception, timing, and politics frequently overshadow raw capability. A real historical example, the Tesla trap. One of the most dramatic illustrations of the performance versus perception paradox is the story of Nikola Tesla. Born in 1856, Tesla was a brilliant inventor whose innovations in alternating current, AC, radio waves, wireless communication, and electromagnetism were decades ahead of his time. His ideas eventually helped power the modern world. But during his lifetime, he was marginalized and misunderstood. Tesla's early career in the United States began under Thomas Edison, where he was hired to improve Edison's inefficient direct current DC systems. Tesla, driven by a different vision, quickly concluded that alternating current AC offered far greater advantages for scalable, long-distance energy transmission. However, Edison heavily invested in DC technology, both financially and reputationally, rejected Tesla's ideas outright. He not only refused to support AC, but publicly mocked its safety and practicality. Disillusioned, Tesla left Edison's company. Tesla's vision for AC found new life through industrialist George Westinghouse, who believed in the technology and agreed to fund its development. With Westinghouse's support, Tesla's AC system began to gain traction, setting the stage for what would become the infamous War of Currents, a public and professional battle between proponents of AC and Edison's entrenched DC empire. Edison, ever the showman and political operator, unleashed a full-scale campaign to discredit AC. He employed fear tactics, sensationalist press coverage, and even public demonstrations in which animals were electrocuted using AC to paint it as lethal and irresponsible. These spectacles, while ethically questionable, were politically effective, turning public opinion and slowing AC's progress. Meanwhile, Tesla kept his focus on innovation rather than confrontation. He created the first working induction motor, developed early models of wireless transmission, and laid foundational concepts that would influence future advancements like radar and X-rays. But while his mind raced ahead, his political savvy lagged behind. Tesla avoided the spotlight, dismissed marketing, and often failed to secure patents or business leverage for his creation. In his partnership with Westinghouse, he even tore up his royalty agreement to save the company during financial turmoil, sacrificing future earnings and weakening his position in the industry. Despite his brilliance, Tesla never mastered the art of business politics. He gave up patent rights, failed to secure consistent funding, and often refused to play by the rules of the corporate world. When Westinghouse faced financial pressure, Tesla tore up a lucrative royalty agreement to save the company, a decision that further diminished his financial stability. In his later years, Tesla became increasingly isolated. Though he received some recognition, including the Edison Medal, which he reluctantly accepted, his name faded from public conversation. He spent his final years in a New York hotel, alone and impoverished, feeding pigeons and working on unreleased inventions. Tesla died in 1943. Only decades later was his true impact fully acknowledged. Today, he is hailed as one of the greatest inventors in history. But his life remains a sobering reminder. Genius without advocacy, visibility, and strategic alliances can lead to obscurity. Tesla's legacy is now secure, but it came at the cost of a lifetime spent underappreciated, misunderstood, and disconnected from the very systems that could have amplified his brilliance. If this chapter resonates with your experience, take a moment to subscribe and let's keep decoding together. The psychology behind the myth. The myth of meritocracy persists because it's psychologically comforting. It tells us that success is fair, that the best ideas win, and talent will always rise. But in reality, the path to success is rarely linear or impartial. Much of what we interpret as merit is filtered through invisible biases and flawed human heuristics. At the heart of this distortion are several psychological forces that shape how people are evaluated, often without awareness. One of the most influential is the halo effect, a cognitive bias where a single positive trait, like charisma, attractiveness, or confident body language, creates an overall favorable impression even in areas unrelated to performance. In office settings, this means the person who speaks fluently in meetings or has the executive presence often gets credit beyond their actual contribution. Their confidence is mistaken for competence. Then there's the spotlight effect, which causes individuals, especially conscientious professionals, to overestimate how much others notice their good work. They assume that excellence is self-evident, that others are tracking their effort and result as closely as they are. But the reality is that most people are focused on their own priorities. Without intentional visibility, great work fades into the background noise of busyness. Perhaps most insidious is social proof, the tendency to follow the crowd when forming judgments. In group settings, if influential people praise someone, others often assume that praise is deserved. This creates a feedback loop where likability and social alignment are rewarded, sometimes more than originality or skill. The person who builds network and tells their story well often climbs faster than the silent genius who hopes to be discovered. Nikola Tesla embodied all these challenges. A brilliant inventor with ideas decades ahead of his time, Tesla struggled with visibility, influence, and trust. He was intensely introverted, reluctant to share credit, and dismissive of social games. Unlike Edison, who collaborated with financiers and courted media attention, Tesla believed the purity of invention should stand on its own. He underestimated the psychology of visibility and influence and paid the price. Tesla's story isn't just a cautionary tale about missed opportunity, it's a mirror for modern professionals who still believe that being right is enough. The mind naturally wants to believe in fairness, but the workplace isn't a lab, it's a theater full of actors, script, and politics. Strategic visibility, a necessary skill. Meritocracy remains a noble goal, but it is not the terrain most careers operate on. Like Tesla, many professionals today assume that performance alone will lead to recognition. But in reality, one must also learn to manage perception, cultivate advocates, and align with decision makers. Strategic visibility involves attaching your work to organizational priorities, being seen during key moments, and controlling your narrative. The reversal. When crisis rewards capability, there are exceptions. In moments of urgent crisis, like wartime, corporate turnaround, or system failure, outcomes may briefly overshadow politics. The person who delivers solutions is rewarded, regardless of personality or relationship. Tesla did experience some of this when his technologies were later used in wartime communications and power infrastructure. But even then, the credit often went elsewhere. Reframing the rules. Understanding the myth of meritocracy is not about abandoning ethics. It's about recognizing that playing fair is not the same as playing blindly. If even someone as brilliant as Tesla could be eclipsed by politics, what does that mean for the rest of us? The answer is clear. Technical excellence must be paired with political literacy. And while we may not all be inventors, we can all learn to amplify our value in ways that are visible, sustainable, and dignified. You've reached the end of this section. If this reflection speaks to you, please support this channel by liking and subscribing. You're listening to Cerebral Decode. Think deeper, play smarter.